I'd like to start by saying how pleased I am that you've invited me to be with you today. My chairman, who's been mentioned a couple of times in dispatches, is called Paul Christensen. And Paul is a farmer in Oxfordshire. And it is often our habit to have early morning phone calls, and they normally take place just after farming today, and we swap notes. So on this morning's call, I said, I'm going to the MPA Awards this afternoon. He said, you are lucky. He said, there's such a good lot. And on one level, that sounds like a rather sort of casual comment, but I think in another, it just totally sums up how we feel about our relationship with you. And you have been such good partners, and there are such wonderful examples, only some of which we've had a glimpse of today, of what it is you've done on the forefront of protecting and enhancing our natural environment. And the fact that this partnership is now being extended into the marine environment is fabulous and so crucial. And I think Mark so eloquently described in his presentation earlier the real opportunity we have now to look after our marine environment in the way we have been looking after our terrestrial environment really since 1949. And there's been that rather long gap between 1949 and 2010 with the enactment of the Marine and Coastal Access Act that now gives us the same opportunity to provide that protection at sea. And to know that we have such trusty partners who, once again, are leading the way in terms of taking real action that is going to make such a difference in that regard. And again, I suppose that just really underlines why it is so good for us to be sponsoring this award, because it is the culmination of so many years' hard work and such good relationships between us that we can really build on that. And I suppose one of the reasons we so like working with you is there's probably few other industries where we see the same degree of inspiring commitment coupled with that deep knowledge of what you're doing and also that real enthusiasm for wildlife and for nature. And I suppose in my view, you take corporate social responsibility to new heights. And reflecting on some of Barry's challenges earlier, I mean, your industry from the boardroom to the front line does understand and believe that the environment goes hand in hand with your economic bottom line and with the communities in which you work and live and serve. So this is an opportunity, I feel, very much for me to say a very, very big personal thank you for what it is you do. And it's really impressive, I think, that extent to which you have reached out into the local communities you're surrounded by. And you give people that opportunity to, I suppose, think about what it is they want for their natural environment and to see their visions and their aspirations and their plans enacted. And, the way in which you do that with young people, I think, is particularly impressive. Because not only are you helping them create a better natural environment, I think you're empowering them to know that there are choices to be made about a sustainable future. And I know Nigel and I were talking about what the financial and economic future holds. And I think one thing we can all be certain of is that we're not biding our time or waiting or making efforts to go back to where we've come from, because we know that it didn't serve us well and there is going to be a new future, and those sort of decisions that you're making and that you're working on are really, I think, what it's going to be about, a sustainable future. So turning a little bit now to the awards themselves, I've been told to underline that there's been huge attention to detail in the judging of these, and there's no sense of anything being picked out of a hat. And our panel, who no doubt Julian will introduce in a moment, have visited all of the sites and have had an opportunity to talk with some of your local partners, which I know they enjoyed enormously. And they thought about what it is we're trying to really judge and encourage. And I'm going to tell you what those 4 criteria were. It's about the quality of the end result and the benefits delivered across the landscape, as well as the specific species and habitats that are supported. It's been about the strength of the partnerships, and in particular with conservation organisations. It's about the commitments that have been put in place for long-term management of the site, the willingness to see the job through, and it was interesting to hear earlier that is one of your concerns, how it is you manage that. And last but by no means least, on the level of engagement with local people, creating those vital community links. And you're going to get a little glimpse of the finalists, and I hope that you feel not only inspired but very proud of what you've achieved. We at Natural England feel indebted to you for what it is you've managed to do, not only for the natural environment on the ground, but for the leadership you've shown. And I think my concluding remark will be to borrow the lovely strapline Nick used earlier. It's not only about realising your potential, but it's about releasing your potential, because I know together we can do so much more. And thank you for what you've done to date.